If there isn't already a recognised medical term for the condition of chronic collecting, I think there should be. Stand by to meet some people who've got a bad case of the bug in Priceless Antiques Roadshow. Yes, we've seen some extraordinary examples of collectomania at the Antiques Roadshow over the past 30 plus years. Take the case of this lady, a vicar's wife with a penchant for pants.
But I was particularly interested in underwear, and I started to collect all sorts of underwear, and then kind of majored in knickers.
There are some people with such dedication to the roadshow, they'll charter their own plane to get to it.
Welcome to the people from Antiques Roadshow. If you'd like to give me a price on a 1974 Trailander, I've got all the original documentation. One careful company owner.
Also today, the agony and the ecstasy of making your debut. Experts relive their first time in front of the cameras.
I chatted with her before the filming and she said, oh, I was so nervous, she was so nervous. And I just thought, you have no idea how nervous I am, because this is my first time.
Does size matter? For some antiques owners, it's vital. Over the years, we've met some dedicated collectors who've burst with pride at the quantity as well as the quality of their prized pieces. We've been deep mining the archives to find some of our champion collectors. If hoarding were an Olympic sport, we Brits would take gold every time.
How many tickets do you reckon you have?
Probably about 1,500.
1,500?
Yeah.
A lot of really dedicated collectors of esoteric stuff. They are slightly eccentric in their demeanour.
None more so than Anne Blight, collector of the humble button.
Well, I'm a manic collector, and if I didn't do that, I'd do something else, wouldn't I? Like drinking or something. So the collecting is a bug, and we collectors are all the same. You tell anybody you collect buttons and they think you're crazy. But the reason they think you're crazy is because they think you're collecting little shirt buttons. But of course, we're not collecting shirt buttons. The ones we really like are the 18th century ones. I mean, they're really scrumptious.
That looks like a very expensive button to me.
Yes, it's a nice large enamel, and yes, it is my most expensive button.
How much is that worth?
It cost about £400. We built our house ourselves, and of course I didn't have enough wall space, so my husband said, I'll build you an extension. So he did. He's built me a little gallery, and I've got, I don't know, 100, 200 trays of buttons hanging up.
This is a new jacket with buttons. Would you like those for your collection?
I would, thank you very much. That's come from you, Michael.
I'm on it.
It was obviously his spare button, and he gave it to me. Of course, it was an everyday run-of-the-mill button, and I said, well, I hope you don't lose one, because you'll need this button back.
In the quantity stakes, there's been little to beat one collection which came into ceramics experts Henry Sandon and Terence Lockett in Paynton.
So this is the collection listed down in this book.
Part of it.
Part of it.
Part of it? There's hundreds and hundreds of things. I often tell people, I wish you'd write all this down and put it on the back of the pot or something like that, so that the future generations would know. And this dear lady had got everything listed down in her catalogue.
That's nice.
Fine. Now that what relates 42, to the book, does
yes.
it?
Oh, yes.
Number 42, Terry.
Right.
It's a nice jug.
It is. And 42 tells us that it's Newhall jug.
As things emerge from a bag, more and more and more, and each piece seems to get better and better, you think, you can't get any better than this, and still out they come.
364.
364. 364.
This little 364.
364. One Wielden cauliflower teapot and teapot.
That's
these two, isn't it?
It's like Christmas, isn't it?
To me, a potaholic. You know, I love to see new pots. I love to see pots I've seen before, even.
Wonderful.
How many of these sort of things have you got now?
3 cabinets full.
3 cabinets. I break one of the commandments every time I do a roadshow. You know, the one about coveting. You know, not the other ones, but the coveting one. I mean, I don't want my neighbour's ox or his ass, but it's his pot I want. And it's awful when they take them away afterwards.
But it's unlikely anyone would own up to coveting some of the more extreme collections that turn up, at least not on national TV. I wouldn't put it past Michael Aspel.
We did a series called Collector of the Week for a time, but it did open your eyes to the kind of esoteric things that people dedicate their lives to.
In olden days, a glimpse of stocking was looked on as something shocking, but for this week's collector, anything goes, because Rosemary Hawthorne is known officially as the knicker lady.
I am.
I must ask you, how did you get into knickers?
Professionally speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, she had this weird collection, but she knew what people might think about it and all the possible remarks that might come from it. So it was a very satisfying encounter.
I was interested in fashion and costume, very interested in it, but I was particularly interested in underwear, and I started to collect all sorts of underwear, and then kind of majored in knickers.
But when did women start wearing knickers?
Well, surprisingly, it's really about a couple of 100 years ago. Up to then, they didn't wear anything at all. They didn't bother.
And it was one of the most enjoyable encounters. Not only was it fun and unusual, but it was tremendously interesting. I did learn quite a lot about knickers that day.
These belonged to Her Majesty Queen Victoria.
Herself?
Herself. This pair have sat upon the English throne.
You always hope that an item is going to come along that you know that is going to be fun, and the idea of a lady collecting knickers I knew was a winner.
So your husband is a vicar?
Well, he's now retired, but yes, he was a vicar.
Known as the
knicker vicar.
Of course.
Yes.
As much fun as that collection was, they weren't all quite as potentially blush-making.
The cutest collector award must go to young James Huntley, who met Michael in the same year.
Every week we meet people who get steamed up about their hobbies, but the contender this week for top collector gets steamed up about steam, and it's James Huntley. James, how long have you been a collector? Many years, I think.
Yeah, about 6 years, yeah. 6 years.
This little baby face. I mean, he was 10, but he looked about 6. And I was just mesmerised by this kid.
And what got you started?
I went to a steam rally with my granddad and my mum, and they said if I see a model steam engine around, we'll buy it for you. So they bought it for me, and it just started from then.
And what was that one? What was the first one you ever got?
It was a Mamod stationary steam engine.
And Mamod's a famous maker,
yeah,
is it?
British one.
And this is just part of your collection
This is
now?
just part of the collection. There's about 50 in total.
Wow.
And he had told in a very calm way what he'd paid for that and how he collected that and how he'd restored that.
So what happens with the old ones that are a bit of a wreck? I mean, this one...
That one, might put the wheels back on, but we're not sure because it catches people's interest when you've got an engine that's fallen to pieces.
But you do rebuild them, do you?
We would, yeah. But that one does run, actually. You put airline on it, and then it would start off. He shouldn't run, but he does.
And he was so old, so knowledgeable, so wise about the ways of steam and life, you felt.
And you've got a mate who helps you around as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Who's that?
My brother. He's around here somewhere. I don't know where he is.
And is he as keen as you are?
No, but he's not interested, really. He's interested in killing people.
Killing people?
Yeah. He just likes watching programmes about killing people.
Oh. And all you care about is?
Steam engines, really.
I know that a lot of people were interested in that boy's story and his collection, and I think he had a few interesting additions to it afterwards, and I'm sure his brother has found plenty of material to keep him happy.
Lovely to see that young steam enthusiast, but I think my nomination for the most weird and wonderful collection has to go to the knickers. Now, in these recessionary times, we've all heard how gold is proving a great commodity to own. But jewellery expert John Benjamin reckons he knows another great investment.
If I was asked, what should I collect? What should I invest a certain amount of money in? It would have to be Georgian rings. Now, why? Why should you buy Georgian rings? Well, I'll tell you why. They are exquisitely pretty, they are very well made, and they are also charming. Some of the designs of them are exquisite. Little flower clusters of little multicoloured gems, a pretty little miniature in a diamond border. And I love this one because it's got a flower cluster of half pearls, and the shoulders are two little hands representing friendship. All these rings that we have in front of us here were all made from around about 1795 to 1835, that kind of period. They're all available for a figure of between around about £300, £400 and £1,500. Now, I'm sorry, I know I love Georgian jewellery, but for me, buying something like this, it's never going to go down in value, and you're going to be telling everyone, just look at the style that I've got.
An idea for a hedge fund with heritage from John Benjamin. Recently, I headed with the Antiques Roadshow team to the Channel Islands. Now, taking 30 crew, all the camera gear, 20 experts and an articulated lorry across the channel was quite an undertaking. But we knew that our fans there had been waiting patiently for over a decade for us to arrive. We followed one of those, Sue Roth, who lives on the tiny island of Alderney, on her day out to the roadshow.
Alderney is a very small place, 1.5 miles by 1 mile. But the nice thing about Alderney is people.
But don't underestimate the sleepy atmosphere of this tiny Channel Island, because today, something's afoot. Islander Sue Roth is organising a trip to neighbouring Guernsey, which is playing host to the Antiques Roadshow. And her planning HQ is here on Alderney, in the shop where she sells shoes and gifts.
We are part of the high street, and so therefore everybody drops in, whether it be just for a cup of coffee or to find out what's going on the island.
Today, all the talk's about the roadshow, and the programme's loyal fans are descending on Sue's shop with objects that they hope will interest our experts.
Oh my God, Mr. Jean! What have you... Oh my God!
Absolutely fantastic.
As well as leading one of the groups who'll be getting the flight to Guernsey,
Hello, Janet.
Sue's also planning to take some items on behalf of those who can't go themselves.
They bought it after the war because...
It's nice that we've got so many different things on the island that people want to take. And if we'd made it public that we were going, I think we'd have had to hire 2 planes just to take the stuff.
Hiya, Mick. Are you going down? Are you going down tomorrow?
We're going down tomorrow, yeah.
Are you just taking this down?
No, I've got a German 1942
Wow.
SS badge, you know, found in the occupation on Alderney here.
I think there'll be a little bit of one-upmanship over who's got the antique that's worth the most or has the best story for the TV crews and everything.
Hello, Sue.
Oh, hi, Anne.
I brought that scroll I've been telling you about.
Oh, good. Oh.
Step forward, Anne, Sue's friend and travel companion. She's keen to find out more about her grandfather's Japanese silk scroll.
Wow, that's nice and crisp, isn't it? It'll be fabulous to know just what it is and whence it came.
I'm looking forward to finding that out.
Oh, I'm so excited.
It'll be a great day out.
It will be, and we'll at last know the secret of the scroll, hopefully.
See you tomorrow, then.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Anne, Sue and husband Jeff are making the 25-mile trip to Guernsey in one of the tiny Trilander planes that fly between the islands.
Seatbelts on, please. Telephones off, no smoking. Welcome to the people from Antiques Roadshow. If you'd like to give me a price on a 1974 Trilander, I've got all the original documentation. One careful company owner.
It's only a 15-minute hop to Guernsey. At Summeray Park, Sue, Anne and Jeff join the queue.
think you have to go to the green tent, and then what they do is they'll give you a ticket.
There we are. Thank you very much.
Before they can see an expert, they need to get a ticket for each different section they're visiting.
If you're wanting it seen separately, then take it to books.
Right, OK, so I'll do that first, then books. Right, OK.
So Sue and Jeff head from table to table, finding out about the many objects they've carried across the water. First up, books expert Clive Farahar.
What have you got here?
This particular book I saved from going down to the dumps.
And it was in this condition?
Yes, exactly.
Well, it is the South Polar Times, which is a very famous reprint of the magazine that was actually typed and done by Edward Wilson in the Antarctic. The third volume is rarer to find than the other two. Volume 3 is the last expedition, the Terra Nova expedition, when Scott and Wilson lost their lives.
Oh, right.
In this condition, worth £400?
No.
Out of a skip?
I think it was going to go yes. Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. That's lovely. Here comes Sue.
Oh, where'd you go on?
Well, that was worth going.
What? Yeah.
£400.
No.
You're joking.
That's a great start, but there's plenty more items for our experts to see.
So would it be Persian or would it be...
I know it's from that part of the world. Do you know why?
Why?
If you look closely here, it says Iran.
Oh, God, it does.
How? So you've had this for 15 years, you've never actually
noticed,
looked at it?
Never noticed it.
I think it should be confiscated from you.
So it's not a great commercial value then?
Framed up like that, probably 120 to 150 pounds.
Looks nice. Right. Hangs in the hall, looks nice. Great.
Why not?
It's been a mixed success so far for Sue. How have the other half of the Alderney crew fared?
So how have you gone on?
Not too bad. Dave had a good find.
Did you?
Yeah, with his picture. Florentine, Italian painted, worth above a tooth.
And what about you with your
That SS,
that horrible thing?
That badge, yeah.
That badge,
yeah. It wasn't too bad. It was rare. And they said it was a few £100, But...
It's the moment of truth. As Anne meets expert George Archdale to have her scroll valued, will her hopes be realised?
It is 7 feet 5 inches long, so I'm not quite sure how you're going to examine it.
Well, let's have a look at the beginning of it.
This is the end, actually.
It's the end,
That's the end.
You can't go much further back.
No, no.
From the style of painting, I suspect you're looking at perhaps 150 years of age. I don't think you're looking at a greater age than that. This suggests that there's
an emperor, doesn't it?
Inside the carriage. But the display is always going to be a problem with. These were made to be unrolled and looked at in that way. It is beautifully painted, but I'm sorry to say it's not of wonderful, wonderful value. Probably if this went to auction, it would be 150, 200 pounds.
No. Well, thank you very much for telling me about it. Yes, I was disappointed with the value of the scroll. I've had a really, really super day. So glad that we sort of made the effort to get together and come down. It's been really fascinating.
It's been so interesting, hasn't it?
Oh, I didn't know the Antiques Roadshow was quite so much fun to actually sort of come to and participate in, if you like.
And your experts and specialists are just so natural and they're so lovely and great sense of humour as well, and lovely.
So another typical Antiques Roadshow. Many highs, a few lows, but at the end of the day, a happy time had by all. Ah yes, the roadshow is great fun. Thanks to the people of Alderney for making such an effort to visit us. And they enjoyed their day in front of the cameras. But you know, our visitors are sometimes a little bit nervous about being filmed with their objects. Not half as nervous as our experts, though, when they make their TV debut. Some of our most recent newcomers relive their first day under the beady eye of the camera.
To have this with the set, with the earrings, would have looked lovely. Oh, stunning.
To feel a new kid on the block is actually quite nice. I feel like, oh, there's a little bit of life left in me. That's good.
This is a really good piece of furniture. It's quintessentially English. This is what we look forward to.
Fiona Bruce and the rest of the crew going around these wonderful houses.
These 3 watercolour sketches are absolutely brilliant. They've got to be by Joseph Crawhall. Of course, I remember the Antiques Roadshow right from the very beginning when I was a child. My parents were antique dealers, and we used to watch the show every Sunday afternoon with a cup of tea, just like most British people do.
A long time ago, someone said, "Oh, you should be on the Antiques Roadshow." I went, "Gosh, I don't think I'll ever get on that." But that thought sort of made me think, well, maybe. I thought, well, how am I going to get on there? So I sent a picture of myself to a series editor. I've always ridden motorbikes. I'm a bit of a petrol head, actually. I really like, I like speed. I like the noise of Formula cars and all that kind of thing. I just thought, well, if he wants a jewellery expert with a bit of a difference, I'm his girl.
It was a pretty memorable image, I have to say. Leathers, a motorbike, pearls, a jewellery expert. Different. Great as that photo was of Joe, it's not exactly all the requirements we need for an expert. You need to know your subject backwards. You need to be a brilliant communicator. You also need to work fantastically well under pressure. Regularly at a roadshow day, you're looking down a line of 40 or 50 people, all of whom have brought Granny's treasures. So it's a matter of rolling all of that in together to deliver on the day.
Getting on the show's one thing, but once that's been achieved, there's a job to be done. And for a new recruit, it's not easy.
There is a huge responsibility on you because it is recorded. If we're just having a conversation, you would hear certain words, not other words, but when it's actually recorded in the can, that's when I get really nervous.
And for all the experts, perhaps the most nerve-wracking moment of all is the first time in front of the cameras.
I would hope that for the first few recordings with new experts, we'd find something fairly simple, something within their knowledge area that they would feel very confident to be able to talk about. And ideally, an owner who's got plenty to offer, so that they're not going to have a problem making an easy conversation of this.
Joey's first outing came in East Kirby in Lincolnshire.
I had been on the rostrum for quite a few years, taking auctions in Bond Street at Sotheby's, and then that was pretty nerve-wracking, but nothing like this.
Okay, everybody, this is going to be very exciting, so keep yourselves.
And then this lady came, and I saw her, and she had this ruby and diamond brooch, and I remember when we sat down, and so I went, "Hi," and they were, "Cut." Eileen, hi. Can you tell me?
Hold on 1 second. Sorry.
Don't say
I
that.
asked the question just at the wrong time in my head.
I hadn't quite worked out that bit, that was for sure, but at least it got everyone laughing, so we all sort of relaxed from then on. Well, I'd love you to tell me about this brooch. How long have you had it? Have you had it in the family?
It was my mother's. I think Dad bought it for her.
And you have been given it?
As a 50th birthday present.
I chatted with her before the filming and she said, "Oh, so nervous." She was so nervous. And I just thought, you have no idea how nervous I am because this is my first time. I would say that in auction you would be looking at around about £4,000.
Really?
And it flowed really well. It was great.
Joey's not the only one to suffer first night nerves. Grant's opening performance came on a rainy day in Coventry.
Deep inside, I was very kind of anxious in a way, because, of course, this was my first outing, and I didn't want to be told, Grant, this is not for you, but I also, wanted for it to be successful. Here we have a rather wonderful coloured lithograph by Sir Terry Frost. Nowadays, there's a huge amount of interest in his work. He's one of the leading 20th century figures in British art. He's represented the Tate. I was very lucky because the owner of the pictures was particularly bubbly, very knowledgeable, and of course she was related to Terry Frost.
Well, Terry was my cousin.
And was he a wonderful family man?
Yeah, he was very much a family man, yeah. My sister and I lost our parents quite young,
Right.
and he used to step in and look after us as much as he could.
It was actually really a rather wonderful interview in a way, where I found out a lot of information about Terry Frost and who he was as a person. Certainly, works by Terry Frost now are seriously collected internationally, not just nationally, literally worldwide.
That's interesting.
For my first record, she was the very best person I could ask for.
You're good.
You can see the relief on Grant's face at the end of that first recording. Not an easy thing that he was doing. It'd been pouring with rain all day at Coventry Cathedral, so we were shooting between the showers, and we had a tight schedule to be able to deliver. I thought he pulled it off pretty well.
I believe this is made out of solid ebony.
The chairs were perhaps a bit rickety and I burned them.
You burnt the chairs?
Even having done a few recordings, the fledgling experts say the most important thing is to build a good rapport with the owner.
This lady, she bought this lovely little Regency work table. It's rosewood and cross-banded and satinwood legs. She was stroking it as though she was stroking like a little dog. I mean, she loved this piece.
It's always ever been known as Granny's sewing table. It was left to me by my granny about 15 years ago, and I can remember it from childhood. I always admired it and always played with it, and when she died it was left to me.
When I was speaking to her, and you could tell that there was this empathy, this chemistry between us.
And then the lady of the house would have been sitting there elegantly doing her sewing. I would put a valuation of this around £5,000 to £6,000.
Never! Oh, my word! Oh, Granny would be so thrilled.
When we finished recording and I gave her the valuation, she gave me a great big hug, which was lovely because I wasn't expecting it, and she had a little tear in her eye.
I'm learning things I never knew about our experts. Joe Hardy and a Harley. Who'd have thought it? Before we go, just time for a magic moment recalled by our pictures expert, Dender Easton. He's been with the show for almost 10 years, but remembers one special find as his all-time favourite.
I was doing the Antiques Roadshow at Montacute House, and we were all outside on a summer's day. And in my queue, this lady comes forward with her son and puts down these pictures, illustrations, from Winnie the Pooh on the table. And I looked at them, I couldn't believe my eyes.
This is so exciting for these to turn up today. EHS, Ernest Howard Shepherd.
Ernest Howard Shepherd's very important as an illustrator because he was the one and only illustrator of A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh.
And obviously looking at Owly and Eeyore and Pooh. Absolutely fantastic. And there's so much spontaneity here. You've only just got to look at Owly. It's fantastic.
And I asked the question we always ask, where did these come from? And she said, well, they belong to my mother. And they hung in my mother's nursery, and they hung in my nursery, and they hung in my children's nursery.
I mean, just look at this. A fantastic study. Because you've got Pooh stuck in the sort of rabbit hole being pulled out by Christopher Robin, rabbits behind, and then we got Piglet there hanging on the back trying to pull him out. And it's just charming. I know that this would make between £30,000 and £50,000.
Wow.
That is how popular.
Wow. She loved them so much. She had them in her nursery, and so did the children. And I thought that was the best bit. There was, it was just so natural.
I remember seeing those Pooh drawings at the time. They were beautiful, weren't they? We've more memorable moments from the vaults of the Antiques Roadshow next time we meet. So until then, bye-bye.
With women's downhill skiing tomorrow, so Fiona returns on Thursday. And we're in Vancouver later with medal hopes for Britain's Zoe Jellings in the women's snowboard cross. Our Winter Olympics action starts at 8 here on BBC Two. Next tonight, the post-Thatcher years started with a major change called John, but then came Black Wednesday. It's Andrew Marr's History of Modern Britain.